Hi everyone, welcome back to JavaScript 101, and in this video I'm going to be talking about basic operators. So in JavaScript you have your addition operator here. If I do 1 plus 2, that is 3, and then you have your subtraction, and then you have your multiplication, and you have your division here. So that other than that, you have your remainder or your modulus operator. So if I have 8 modulus 3, you get 2, because 8 divided by 3 is 2, and you get 2 remainder, or you have 2 left over. And then lastly, you have your exponentiation, which is your power. So if I have 2 to the power of 8, so that's 2 stars, you get 256. So that is your exponent operator here. And what we've done here is several numeric operations here, and we're going to look at how these operators behave when it involves strings. So if you do an addition of two strings, if you have something called hello, I'm gonna put a space here, and you add world, it will basically just join these two strings together. And if you have strings of numbers, if you have 1 and you have 2, it will do the same thing. You'll just join it together, so you have 12, what looks like 12, and a string of 12. But if you have the same operation, or not the same operation, you just replace it with a division, you get a number of 0.5, because as we've discussed in the last video, the type conversion video, we have something called an implicit conversion here, where it converts these strings into numbers and do the operation. And so for strings, the operators don't really have a consistent behavior, especially when you have like strings of numbers. So the way we can negate this, or we can avoid this, is we can do numeric conversions. You can use the number function, and we can convert the numbers or the strings to numbers and then do the operation. But there is an operator that can do just that. You can just use the plus symbol, and if you have a string of 1, and you divide plus by a string of 2, you get 0.5 here. Sorry, that's not the right example. If you do it on an addition, you get 3 instead of 12. So that's how you can do a numeric conversion using this addition symbol here, and it will convert it into a number. So the next thing I want to talk about is operator precedence. So if we have a particular operation where we have something like 1 minus 2, and then we multiply it by 5, it gives you minus 9. But if you do sort of the operation step by step, if you have 1 minus 2, that gives you minus 1, and then you multiply it by 5, it gives you minus 5. So minus 1 multiplied by 5 gives you minus 5. But here we get negative 9 here. And why is that? Is because the multiplication operator takes precedence over the subtraction operator. So wherever the order of the operator doesn't really matter, and certain operators get precedence over others. In this instance, the multiplication gets precedence over the subtraction. And in JavaScript, there's a lot of operators, and each of them have their own precedence level. But I'm not going to go through all of it because there's quite a lot of operators in JavaScript. I'm just going to give you a link to the precedence table, and you can just use it to for your own reference. Because really you don't need to remember all of it. I'm just going to let you give you information on just the basic operators here. So you have something called an acronym called Pemdas. You might have heard it in school, and that is what the precedence is. So Pemdas stands for parentheses exponentiation, multiplication, division, and your addition and your subtraction. They don't really necessarily go in that order, but there are levels. So for example, parentheses will take precedence over all the rest, and then the next will be your exponent, and then your multiplication and division is the same level, and then your addition and subtraction. So what I mean by the same level is that multiplication does not exactly take precedence over division. They have the same level of precedence, so this will happen basically by order. So if multiplication happens first, then it will multiply first, or if division happens first, then division will be done first. And the same thing goes with addition and subtraction. So that is your operator precedence for your basic operators here. And the next thing I want to talk about is your incrementation and your decrementation. So when you want to increment a value, let's say you have a variable of a, I'm just going to call it, I'm going to assign the value 5, and if you want to increment the value, you can just assign and say a plus 1, and you will actually get the value that's incremented here. So if I log the value a, or the variable a, you get 6 here. So that's one way of doing it. Or you can do just a short plus equal 1. It accomplishes the same thing. It gives you 6. Another shorter way of doing it is just by doing a, and then you just put a plus plus there. You will also get 6. And you can also do a plus plus and a, and then it will also gives you 6 here. But you have to remember that the order matters, that it is actually quite a different operation. So if you have, for example, you reassign this incrementation here, if you run this, you get 6. But if you put it the other way, you will get 5, because what happens here is that when you assign it back to a here, what it does is it assigns the value a, which is 5, into a again. So a will equal 5, and then it will do is incrementation. So if you do the incrementation first, what it will do is it will increment the value of a, so 5 becomes 6, and then it will assign it. That is when you will get 6. So if you want to basically do an incrementation and you want to reassign it value, let's not call it a, maybe we'll call it b, and you want sort of a previous value, you can basically do a plus plus. So basically kind of like memorize what the value was before, and you can get also the new value. So if you have b and a, get 5 and 6. So that is basically the incrementation. It also works with minus, so that's also decrementation. And so I'm going to end the video here. So we've talked about the different basic operators and precedence of the operators, plus also incrementation and decrementation. So in the next video, I'm going to be talking about comparisons. So if you like this content, give a like, subscribe, and hit the bell for your notifications, and I will see you in the next video.